I actually haven't even been to the States.
Mm-hmm.
I've only spent time, obviously, where I grew up in Australia and in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels a little bit, in terms of the strike and so on, it feels a little bit, it's not so much an issue here. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, not in the heart of it.
Hmm.
Um, so, yeah, it's an interesting place to be in that sense.
Is this a benefit for you guys? Since if America's not making movies, Europe should now take over and like just dominate, take the whole market.
Potentially, I mean, cinema was kind of started in Europe, right? And
Exactly.
because I'm very much focused on making my own stuff, I'm kind of out of the, I'm not dealing with bigger production companies and so on, so I'm a little bit out of the loop in terms of the bigger
Mm-hmm.
budget stuff. Um, but yeah, it's definitely, I mean, within my network and community, I'm not hearing about the striking stuff at all over here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wild. Yeah, I live in Los Angeles and Hollywood, so it's wild here. You see all these actors with pickets just walking up and down saying, "We want no AI, please." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
fair. I guess
Yeah.
I don't want to get replaced by AI either.
I
So,
guess you're
No,
paid
if
so
I
much to
was
complain, man.
if I was in LA, I'd be out there too.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does it worry you?
It did at first. It did initially, but I've grappled with it a lot since then, and I've basically come to the realization that AI, no matter how hard it tries, can't replicate personal human stories.
Let's
It
go.
can it can get close, I think, but in terms of what's unique to all of us and our own personal stories, it can't offer the perspective that we have given our experiences.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's do
that's
it.
true.
So the writers have nothing to worry about. They
They
should
should stop
stop.
complaining, Ali, right? Yeah, stop being
Yeah.
little kids. Stop complaining about your little problems. Just keep producing. No, of course. They're
Yeah, I
actually
think
it
I
brought
think
things
just
to.
hold on to the faith in your own personal experience and stories. We're
hmm
all on we're all on individual and unique journeys, and we've all come from different experiences, and I just firmly believe that people will crave that, um, and yeah, as much
I'll,
as
I'll tell you what AI might be good at. Maybe making the next, Thor movie or something like that. No offense to Thor, but like making the next generic blockbuster movie. Maybe I can do that really good. Take all the what could make you really excited and make a cool script. But if you're talking
yeah,
about something unique, like a unique story that gives you a unique point of view, by definition, AI can't do that because it's not in the database. You
Exactly.
know, the
yeah,
You
only
know,
one
Ali,
can do
that's
it is
it,
you.
I think it's an important word that you used, the database. So the fact that there's a database that exists for the AI to look at means that someone had to create this database for the AI to look at. Someone had
hmm
to create something for them to study and analyze, to learn from. The AI is not going to create something from scratch. Oops, my bad. They're not going to create something from scratch. They're going to have to watch someone else do something brand new and invent something. And then they can be like, okay, let me study this, analyze it, and create it. So even if they do want to make the next Thor blockbuster, someone created Thor, and it's not
hmm
that someone was a human being.
hmm
AI is not going to make Thor by itself.
hmm
mm.
Wow.
I think it's like when I go and watch a band or I go and watch a movie. There's that other that I'm trying to connect with, and I mean, from bands, I'd go see a band, and so I know I used to think if I was kind of tuned out for the gig, they kind of lost me in some way. But if I was like very present and focused on the band, they had that thing that I was looking for, that experience that I was looking for, that thing that's hard to describe.
hmm
Doesn't happen very often, but it can happen with so many different artistic mediums, and that's that thing which is kind of undescribable is what I don't believe. No matter how close AI gets to kind of replicating humans, I don't think it can give us that.
hmm
I could be wrong when it becomes like the ultimate supercomputer that has a conscious. The question I
hmm
think is does it have a soul? Does it have a
hmm
conscious? And who knows how far it's going to go. So
Well, that's a different discussion then. If it develops a soul or a conscience, I don't think it's AI anymore.
Hmm.
Then you'll have a debate of like, is this
Is
is this
it a
person now?
being?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
is it
Is it a
sentient?
sentient
Yeah, yeah.
being? Yeah.
That would be a movie. That could.
That's a
There's
movie
a
idea.
movie
It's
idea.
been done. Blade Runner, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
exactly. Man, yeah, it's for me the best part of the creative process is definitely like doing the hard thing to finally get to the creative thing. Like me and my friends, we like do a long hike, walk, and then get all our instruments, get to a room. By the time we get there and set up, then it's all set. We did all the hard work. Now we just jam. Or like me and Saeed, we do all this work, getting guests, doing the editing, preparing for the pod, and then now we're here and we just jam.
Mm. And
It's you can't do that with AI, really.
now, in this instant gratification, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot. I think with technology and stuff, there's a lot of element of the craft being lost, and it's like,
Hmm.
what's wrong with the joy of making something?
Hmm.
Like, you see all this stuff on YouTube, like you can learn friggin' piano without learning piano. It's like, what? why would I? Why would I want to do? Why would I want to do that? Like instantly just be able to play something without it, I'm a firm believer in craft and the kind of 10,000 hours thing and all that, and it's just as much as the technology can benefit us and we can do awesome things like this, which is really cool. It's like it's just this instant micro micro attention spans and instant gratification, but also to things like learning stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, like you say, what's the joy is in the jamming. The joy is in the process, and trying to eliminate that process to the point where it barely exists. What's the point?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's true. The jamming is important, and so we're talking about crafts and creativity and the arts. Something that I feel like maybe could be useful for the arts, well, it is useful for the arts, is lucid dreaming. So I wanted
Mm.
to ask you, Daniel, like, have you ever tried lucid dreaming yourself, and like, has it been useful, or have dreams in general been useful for your craft?
That's an awesome question, man. I used to love the film Waking Life. Is it Waking Life? I think that's
Oh
about.
wow. Richard
Yeah,
Linklater. Hmm.
yeah, that the animation about
Hmm.
lucid dreaming. And I was fascinated in the I can't remember what it's called, but the fact that when you're in a dream, there's certain things that you can do to realize you're in the dream.
Yeah,
I haven't I haven't experienced that, but I've tried to be very conscious of dreams and take notes and try and let them inform me, particularly creatively. But for me, it's not so much a dream; it's when stuff comes to me in the middle of the night, which can be a bit of a pain sometimes because I'll do I'll sit there trying to force it in the day, and nothing will come creatively, and then in the middle of the night I'll be hit by something, and now I actually ensure that I like get up and at least like take a note, even if I'm like sleepwalking. um so the dreams I am going to start to monitor a bit more. I think I've heard of it used in particularly characters and stuff as well. um but yeah, I've just realized recently that if that call it that creative whatever decides to come at 3:12 a.m. on a Tuesday night, there might be something in that.
yeah. No, I completely agree. Because like, especially at night, maybe for creative people, they get these ideas because they are the least distracted. So it's like, you know how dogs at night are just more aware of the noises around them. They're because their senses are not blocked out, or during the day with all the car sounds and all that. So at night they can hear everything and they can see more and know. So maybe for creatives, it's kind of the same thing. They're less distracted, so their senses are more activated and more aware. So and at that point they're more in tune with like their brainwaves, or like whatever's going on in their heads, their thoughts and shit.
Yeah, for
So
sure. And trying to tap into the subconscious somehow.
yeah,
And there's just so much distraction in the day. Yeah, perhaps it is the best time. Obviously, people's circadian rhythms and stuff are different. I tend to like be productive more in the morning. So
Hmm.
yeah. Ali, man, I love that you're wearing a martial arts top. Have you have you have you studied yourself? Have you practiced? Is that
Yes.
He just
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but that was a few belts ago. Let's not talk about it. But I need to update the photo. Life's good, man. What am I gonna say? Because it's so funny because I have this martial arts school, and then right in front of us there's the actor studio, and I'm into filmmaking and acting and such. But I always find it interesting that most actors in their classes they just sit there, and there's only like 2 actors that go up and they do
Mm.
the practice sets while everyone else sits down and waits. Versus in martial arts, we're all training and learning the whole time. You know, I think
Yeah.
for acting, like you really, it's a cool thing to learn different skills as opposed to just learning the method of acting. You know, I think it could be more valuable. What do you think?
For me, when I was training here in Germany, it was pretty wild because it was really crazy actually because I'd come to Germany when my son was about to be born here. I had zero German. I was doing birthing classes in German with my partner at the time, and then I was going to acting class afterwards in German, and it was a complete mind spin. But the thing about the acting class was I found it so valuable to spend so much time observing.
Mm,
Just like you say, when there's two people up the front, it was an exercise in observation a lot of the time, and then
gotcha.
obviously that 5 or 10 minutes where I was up there in the class, um, to throw down, that was different. But the rest, I got so much out of just observing in a really condensed period of time. And also because there's been a language barrier here in Germany,
Hmm.
it's made me use other instinctual muscles, particularly on set, because I've literally been on film sets that are being directed in German with very little German. I also was a little bit, call it courageous slash silly in terms of throwing myself into auditions with no German, into German auditions, and actually thinking that I was going to have a chance of landing something. And the more I got to know German society, it's quite risk adverse here. And obviously, film production is potentially risk adverse too, depending on the type of project, especially when money is involved. So I was literally going into German auditions and just like not only bombing in the audition, uh, if it had perhaps been in English, but bombing the German massively. And I had to, after a while, I had to kind of stop putting myself through it and kind of find some other some angles.
So, what's the difference between the German acting scene and the Australian acting scene, from your point of view?
Well, the classic thing is I've only ever done one short film in Australia. All the work I've done has been in Europe.
Oh,
It's
wow.
really crazy. Yeah, because I returned to my, call it, filmmaking acting journey when I came to Germany, which was 10 years ago. Um, I knew it was something I wanted to do as a kid, and I went away from it. Obviously, I was in bands, and that was fulfilling me as a performer, but I didn't pursue it seriously until I came to Germany. So it's a real dream of mine actually to go and do a job in Australia because I have only experienced European sets.
You speak English. You'd fit in so perfectly. Yeah, be taking putting the wings on and flying off in Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's so cool. But in Europe, where did you get to work? In England and Germany and such? What's the
Uh,
difference?
the
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done. So I've obviously in Hamburg here. I did it in the early days. I did a heck of a lot of extra work,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it was like film school
Mm-hmm.
because I spent hundreds of hours again observing and being on sets that were predominantly in German, um, and I was just patiently sitting there observing. And then that led to me getting some smaller bit parts and stuff through the agent I was with. So yeah, lots of work in Germany. I've traveled a bit too. I've shot in southern France. Um, uh, that's
Wow.
about it. Yeah, that's about it. Really, it's I've had really kind of where am I? How did I get here? Moments, particularly on German film sets, like being on like they love crimies here, right? They call them crimies, the crime shows.
Hmm.
They just have a massive like fascination with crime shows, and every second thing I was going on was like a crime show, and um yeah, they just for some reason they put all the money into these crime shows.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Part of the culture. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
it's like it's weird that they're into violence. I mean, I guess it resonates with their history. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Maybe the detective solving stuff. It's
Every
can't.
culture has something different they're into, comes in
Yeah.
waves and such too, you know?
I it. I often talk about the kind of German idiosyncrasies of being here because Australia and Germany are polar opposites, right? Uh, Australians we're dry, sarcastic, overly friendly sometimes. Germans can be pretty cold, direct, and there's very little sarcasm.
Mhm.
Um, and just speaking of like public bombing, like every day here, I basically still to this day, 10 years in, bomb in public. Like I bomb at the grocery store. And you can either let that beat you down or you can embrace it. And now that I've learned to embrace it, in terms of navigating the language,
Mhm.
now that I just embrace it and I'm not so concerned about getting it right, and I just throw down, it's really helped me as an artist, because it's like literally just it's like doing mini stand up out there every day and just falling flat on my face most days.
To one of the harshest audiences, right? No, yeah.
Dude, absolutely. You need a very thick skin, very
Hmm.
very thick skin. Yeah,
How is the stand-up comedy scene in Germany like? Have you
it's
watched it?
there. It's almost non-existent. I mean, in Berlin. I mean, there is. I'm still yet to laugh. I'm still yet to laugh at any German comedy that I've seen. It feels very, it feels very contrived, and it's like always trying to like. I'm not bagging it. It's just, it's well, I am really. No, it just seems very formulated and contrived. They just don't have what the Brits or the Aussies
Hmm.
or you guys have.
Totally.
Um, they try very hard, but I'm yet to see anything that's really captured me in terms of the comical stuff.
Yeah, I feel like sense of humor just goes over their head. Like I try with this one German friend of mine when we're playing poker, and I was telling him about like we were talking about bathroom stalls and how like transsexuals are using both bathrooms and shit. And then I was just like I said a joke about it, and he thought I was being offensive. I was like, bro, no, I'm saying a joke. I'm saying a joke. And then he
He's being
went on.
sarcastic.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just trying to be sarcastic, and he just continued on. He changed the topic and started talking about explaining this whole situation of how cubicles are supposed to be shaped and structured. And I was like,
Welcome to my world, man. Welcome to my world.
how do you live with these people?
Welcome to my world. The amount of blank stares I've had, and it's innocent on the German side of things. They take
Yeah.
things very,
Mhm.
very literally, which also has its benefits because, in Australia, we're always like, yeah, nice to meet you, man. We'll catch up. We'll have a beer, whatever. And it's not going to happen, right? Here, they don't say it unless they mean it. But the number of times I've found myself in these situations, actually just a quick one. The first job I had in an office here, the only thing I knew how to say in German was "Happy Birthday," which was "Alles Gute zum Geburtstag." And the boss in the office, I'd been working there a few months, and he still thought I was from New Zealand, right? He was very, he was very skeptical of me. Like he was watching me like a hawk. And anyway, the first Friday in the office, there was 12 colleagues and only one spoke English. There was basically zero English in the office. And a colleague walked past my desk with a cake. And nobody invited me into the kitchen, but I was like, oh, this is my chance to impress everyone with the only German I have, which is happy birthday, right? So I walk into the kitchen and they're all in a circle around the cake. And I go, alles Gute zum Geburtstag. And then my colleague whispers to me, she's like, she's been fired. And I'm like, if she's been fired, why did she bring a cake? You know? And the colleague's like, oh, she wanted to say goodbye to everyone. And so I'm just all the blank faces staring at me, and pretty much my job didn't last long after that either.
To bring a cake on the way out, though, that's confusing. Yeah,
That is
exactly.
Really is. Really is.
I feel like that's the equivalent of getting a cake to a funeral or something like that.
It could be. It could be. I mean, it's a positive approach, but yeah, I just assumed it was a birthday cake. There's a big cake. Look, there's a huge thing on cakes here, right? They, you know, when it's your birthday, you have to bring a cake into the office. It's almost like punishment for getting old or something. It's like if it's your birthday, people should make a cake for you. You know?
Yeah, totally. Get you a cake. Now you bring your own cake to your own firing. Jeez.
Put in the effort to get the attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel, can you do any impressions and such, or accents or voices?
Impressions are not so much my my thing. I mean, I've been exposed to this whole other language here. You know, impressions are definitely not my strength.
Gotcha. I was just wondering, in your acting versatile. I wish, dude. That's what I'm trying to get to. I was hoping to learn from you, honestly, but I gotta just learn otherwise. Yeah, exactly. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to get to learn all the different accents and to speak in them and to do characters and voices, especially on this podcasting thing. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, there's really not a huge practical need for an Australian accent, particularly in German, right? So my accent has been I think it's less now the longer I've been in Europe, but often people can't tell where I'm from. They think I'm British or but yeah, I used to speak, you know, Aussies we speak very much in the nose, like, hey, yo, mate, it's all high in the nose, and the Germans are very like deep in the bowel. And so I feel that my voice has dropped out of my nose a bit, because when I first got here, you know, it was all, oh, how are you, you know, blah, blah, up high, and now it's a bit more fierce.
That's good. Well, you said you're doing auditions in German, so I assume you put on a German persona once you walk in those audition rooms. Yeah.
That's when their heads explode. Yeah.
So, Daniel, how's your taste in movies changed once you moved to Europe? Did it change at all, or you still love the good old Hollywood movies?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's changed. I mean, there's the films that I love through the test of time, regardless of what country I'm in. Yeah, I think the European, you know, cinema is still just really, really respected here. Like, you go down the road and you still, there'll be a full cinema, and that's really reassuring. So it's more about the cinematic experience, I think. But yeah, I can reel off, you know, my top fives, my top threes, all that sort of stuff.
All right, give us the list. You have the list prepared, so you can just hand them to us. But also let's do stuff more current too. That's been out more recently.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, recently, well, going back a little bit, I always go back to Drive. I just feel like it's the thing I love about Drive and Nicholas Winding Refn, the
Mm-hmm.
Danish director, is the minimal use of dialogue. And that Ryan Gosling's character in that film, he says so little but does so much. And it's almost like a Greek fable, tragic hero's journey thing going on. But I'm just a huge fan of less dialogue, trying to find it through behavior.
Isn't it funny though? That Ryan Gosling is now in Barbie, where he's mostly chatting, doing characters without actual any plot or anything. It's a complete inverse of Drive. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, true. I haven't actually. I haven't seen Barbie yet.
Oh, don't
You
worry.
guys?
I haven't
Why?
watched it either, man, and I don't.
You're a
I
grown
don't
man.
think I will.
Why haven't you seen Barbie already? I watched it. Yeah, exactly.
Ali, what do you think about it? Tell
It's
us,
funny.
tell us.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought it had a cool, funny, unique perspective. Yeah,
I kept hearing that there was a lot of feminist propaganda in it.
yeah, but it's 2023, dude. Look at most movies, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
Trying to block that shit.
Yeah.
out, man.
It's funny. I like Ryan Gosling. He's really funny. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Moving on. Oppenheimer. You see that one?
I was supposed to go see Oppenheimer, and I couldn't align with some friends, so I'm still yet to see it, but I'm very keen.
Oh yeah.
Obviously Christopher Nolan. But yeah, the Whale. That's a recent one, fairly recent.
The Whale.
Yeah, that was that.
Where he
was
gained
an
like
awesome...
80 pounds to 100 pounds to how many pounds to be in a character? Wow.
Yeah. No, that was a very moving film, particularly as it was. It's from a stage play, and the whole thing's just set in a house. Like it was. That's a recent one that hit me pretty cool, pretty well.
Yeah, I thought his acting was like so perfect in it, and they really took the time and in one spot in one room to make it so interesting with all these cool shots and to tell this really cool story. And yeah, I definitely teared up. It was so like hard hitting, and
it's amazing when that can be done in just with one house, as opposed to, like you said earlier, big superhero movies or just. That's my thing. It's just like how can we say a lot with very little? That appeals to me as a filmmaker.
What do you think is like the best part, or like the best part of a human that can say the most?
Of a human?
Yeah.
We're
sticking to humans for now. That's what we understand at this point.
Well, like I said earlier, just personal point of view from our own life experience and philosophies. How you can. I just feel what I love about the character stuff is like I'm not the most technical actor when I'm doing acting work, but I have a lot of unique life experience to kind of try and pull from, and that feeds a lot whenever I get the opportunity to build a character. The drawing from the stuff that I've thrown myself into is huge, I think, in terms of having all that in your toolbox. Ideally, you want all of it to embrace as much of the technical stuff as well, but I just personally try to tap into stuff I've experienced.
So you used to be in a band, and how does that play into like character development? And
so it's interesting because I initially worked in architecture, and then architecture just didn't fulfill me in a creative way. It was far more corporate than I had imagined, which is the reality of the industry. And I kind of wish somebody had told me that in university, that like realistically, you're going to get out of uni and you're going to be drawing toilets for the first 2 years, and then you'll graduate from drawing toilets to drawing stairs. And then a job will come in and they'll need the toilet guy back, so they'll throw you back on the toilets. So I've worked with some amazing architects on some amazing projects, but for me personally, the corporate nature of it was just was just not aligned with what I was trying to do. Anyway, I kind of burnt out. I was doing a lot. playing in bands, working full time, all that at once, kind of crashed and burned and realized I had to take a dramatic left turn. And my band in Melbourne at the time, in one night on a dance floor after a show, we just looked at each other and said, "Hey, why don't we take this to London?" And within 3 months, we'd left everything behind. We had our instruments on a boat, and we were off to London to do our first show. So I had this 3-year experience in London. You're in London at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I had 3 years there, and it was a ride. Basically, it was a wild ride. It just had all these ups and downs, and it was a really unique experience, just devoting myself to rehearsing and playing shows in this three-piece rock band. But in answer to your question, it informed me so much as an artist. Like, it was kind of like theater for me.
Yeah.
And again, being on stage and the moments where things went wrong, and dealing with those things in the moment, or dealing with the crowd and any number of variables that got thrown at you on any given night doing shows, was really like theater to me, because you had to sink or swim, sorry. And there was so much preparation, and when the shows came off, they were awesome, like when it came together.
Yeah.
But when things went south, they went really really south. But that, being on stage and collaborating with a band and trying to make that whole relationship work, has just informed my my filmmaking and my acting in so many ways.
So, being in a band, you mentioned there was a lot of ups and downs in London. I mean, I can only imagine what it's like being in a band and having ups and downs. I mean, could you share a bit about it? What happened? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, London. I found it's a place where, like, there's not a lot of middle, right? You're either in a job that's paying really well and you're living well, or you're broke and you're like struggling. There's not a lot of middle ground there. So as musicians with very little money, it was quite grueling. It was quite just the hustle of getting our gear around on public transport, because you just can't drive everything to gigs and all that. So the schlepping the gear around on the train, like drums over shoulders and stuff, trying to get to shows, that was a whole thing in itself. Then obviously in the venues, because they know it's hard to get all the gear there, they provide the back lines, but often the back lines, the back lines of the drums have been belted for 5 years straight every night of the week, and they're like held together with bits of tape and stuff. So a lot of the logistical side of it was pretty grueling, but then the whole band relationship side of it, you're rehearsing together, you're doing shows together. There's so many stories throughout histories of bands not being able to hold their relationship together. But I was going through my own personal growth and dealing with a lot of stuff. It was bringing up a lot of stuff for me personally. It was confronting me with all this stuff that just being on stages and everything and what we were doing was helping me address all this other stuff that I needed to. So it was a really intense time, working on myself and doing these shows. And like, it was kind of, without sounding cliche, it was kind of a find yourself,
Yeah.
It was I was pretty lost before that. And this was like a real find yourself few years.
Yeah. It's a journey. I mean, these are the lessons that you just learn from, and they might not necessarily show you like this is my path and this is where I'm supposed to be, but they can probably like teach you a few things and like shed some light on other careers or other paths that maybe this is where you should be in. This is where you should go.
You're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. And I my ego side of it was, I'm going to go to London and be a rock star and be in the biggest band in the world. That was all the ego stuff. But actually, what it offered me was the complete opposite. And as a result of that experience, I ended up in it with a family in Germany.
Mhm.
So if somebody had said, which is so much more rewarding, like obviously I would have loved the band to take off and get a huge record deal and all that, but the reality was very different. There was nothing glamorous about it whatsoever. But exactly as you say, Sayed, what it offered me and what it ended up giving me was so much more valuable. And in hindsight, it's pretty crazy and random how stuff works out, right?
Wow. Daniel, why
Definitely.
are you in Europe as opposed to being in Australia, your hometown?
I'm primarily here for my son. He's
Mm-hmm.
10. So in London, I met his mother, and she introduced me to. I was very fascinated with Germany. Actually, I was really fast. I'd been to Berlin, and there was like an arts thing, and it was just really cool. So I was curious to to Germany, particularly as London was kind of beating us down in a way, like dodgy promoters, the hustle. Like I've said, I went to Berlin for the first time, and there was like this positivity and this appreciation for the arts and for bands and stuff. I actually tried to get the guys to kind of relocate there, but they weren't into it. Anyway, my my ex, now the mother of my child, introduced me to Hamburg, and I grooved here with Hamburg even more because of the Beatles history, uh, the Reeperbahn. You guys have got to come over. Like it's really an awesome city that I find hard to describe. But for me, like the rock and roll side of it, I really grooved with with Hamburg. And when my son was born here, it's lucky that it was a city I wanted to build a life in. Um, that had its own challenges, obviously, especially as I had just stepped into another new career. I'd stepped towards filmmaking and acting. But my son is my primary reason for being here.
No, I'm definitely interested in visiting Germany soon because like Berlin has always been attractive for me. You know, it's just I don't know. I had some sort of fascination, and I love their football, and I mean, there's like you said, there's a certain inspiration and in the arts and the creativity that they have there, and the music. I'm definitely into techno music, so it's like it's just like out there.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating place. There's a thing there. There's a thing there that I've that if you tap into it, it's very cool, but it's hard again to define or describe what it is. It's just this thing. And every time I think this is Berlin, every time I think I know it and I go down there, I discover something else. Like, because I've spent a fair bit of time there, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting familiar with this town now. I'm sort of the type of bloke that's, if I get too familiar with a place, I get a little bit itchy. I want to kind of move. Obviously, my family's keeping me stable here, but every time I go to Berlin, I just have a completely different experience or discover something new down there. Yeah, you kind of got to experience it to to get it. I think. Yeah.
But Daniel, so when I hear Germany and music, the thing that pops in my head is like techno music, as Said was saying, or like the techno raves. Uh, what do you have you had the chance to experience those scenes? What do you think about them?
Oh yeah, yeah. The electro stuff, the minimal electro stuff. It was never really my thing, but I've developed an appreciation for it. Not the hard like Berghain. Have you heard of the Berghain? It's like one of the biggest
No.
clubs in the. Oh god.
Okay.
Wait, is it the one where you have to come and dressed in like you like specific colors, and then it's very hard to get in and all that shit?
It's very secretive how you get into the place. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of rumors about how you get into the place. I tried once, and what I love about the place actually is they reject B grade celebrities and stuff like reality TV. They reject if they see you like a reality TV star, you're out. Like you won't get in, which I think is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But I tried once, and the classic thing was they had one bouncer who is huge. He's a mountain. He's like 7 foot tall. He's like 400 pounds. And then they had another bouncer next to him who was a little guy, a little short guy. And I got to the front, and they looked at me, and I was like, "Listen, guys, I wouldn't normally make it up, but I was like, listen, guys, I've come from Australia just for the weekend. I've come all the way from Australia, just and I would just love to get into the Berghain." And the big guy, the mountain guy, he's like, "Did you really?" He's like, "That's fascinating." And then he's like, "Now, fuck off."
What do you need to do? What do you need to do to
I've heard there's a lot of stuff online. I've heard rumors, walking in naked, walking in all sorts of stuff. I've got no idea. I think they just actually, it comes down to the non-superficial thing. Like, I had no chance because I was being a dickhead, right? So I think if there's nothing superficial, that puts you in good stead. But I don't know. So I've never actually been in there, but that's a very hardcore pumping techno place. But there used to be a club here in Hamburg where there was a bookcase. It's a nice cocktail bar, and there's a bookcase, and then at midnight a section of the bookcase would open. And you'd go through the bookcase down the stairs into like an underground electro club. And I used to love that place. It's called Gollum. It's Gollum.
It's literally called Gollum.
I was thinking it's like a Harry Potter reference. Turns out, no, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
You find Gandalf randomly walking around there. That's like raving with his white stick, bro. He's not called Gandalf the White because he's dressed in white. It's like he opens his jacket and it's like, there you go, that's all white.
Anything goes.
Yeah,
anything
right.
Goes.
They only let you in because you're from New Zealand, so that's the only way to get in.
I heard they're also like very open-minded about the, drug community, and just like if someone is like wasted as fuck, they'll just like support them and help them out. They won't kick them out of the club.
What has blown me away here, and I've talked about this before, but I think it's important. It's just in Australia, I grew up. Us Australians and Brits, we drink like the world's ending, right? We drink, we just drink like machines. And when I was younger and a teenager and going out and stuff, if you said, "Guys, I need a break, I'm not drinking," you literally had to fight, to back up why you weren't gonna drink. Anyway, the clubs in Melbourne, a lot of security, a lot of fights, a lot of aggression. And after 3 years in London, London, as I'm sure you're experiencing, so it's a very transient city. It's a very multicultural city. In London, I remember getting there and meeting a woman who spoke like 8 languages, and that was pretty normal because she's European, in Europe. And actually, in the 3 years, even though I was having an intense experience, I didn't see a lot of like aggression and stuff. I went back to Australia, first weekend out in a bar. There's like a huge fight in the bar, securities, bouncers. Then when I wanted to go back to Germany, I was trying to get into a bar in Melbourne, and like security would just like not let me in for no reason whatsoever. I get to Germany, you can drink on the street, and there's actually very minimal security anywhere, even in clubs, right? And I was like, wow, this is kind of intense. Like, this has got to be dangerous in terms of like no security. And I can tell you, in the 10 years I've been here, this is in the early days, a lot of nights on the Reaper Barn. The Reaper Barn is a fairly extreme place in terms of anything goes in a kind of controlled way, but anything goes, if that makes sense. Even being down there, I've seen very little violence, very few fights. And I put it down to, if you treat people like adults, you give them the responsibility, they won't throw the toys out the pram. So there's a different people, because they're respected and allowed to make their own choices.
Yeah.
They don't have the need to push back. And at the same time, if they feel they need to push back about something, they will. They won't just lie down. So I just love, and there's a lot of hanging out at the kiosks here. The little you just go to a kiosk, buy a few beers, you just drink on the street. And I think this is the European thing. I love Australia, like best of both worlds. Australia is an amazing, beautiful country. My family, friends, it's so friendly and such a warm, awesome place. But in Europe, I find a real sense of community, which I think is starting to get a little disjointed. Just because it's old, really old in the history and.
What do you mean by disjointed? Like what?
I just mean I don't find so much community. The aspect of just sitting together I was in southern France last year, and I was in a restaurant, and everyone was sort of at different tables and just chiming in on each other's conversations, not intrusively, but like one guy would hear something and he would give his thing over there, and no one was on their phones.
Yeah.
There was no phones.
Everyone was present.
Everyone present is the word.
Yeah.
And it felt like healthy village community.
It's like all of Europe has done therapy, and they're just hanging out around each other. They're all adults, and they've gone through their whole system thing.
I think so. But yeah, I think so. There's a real sense of who they are and what's important, I think. Yeah. So best of both worlds idea. And I haven't even been to the States. Like I gotta
You gotta come over, man.
Yeah, exactly. Got a lot of friends in LA.
What are you gonna do? How else? We got Disneyland right here. You gotta go to Disney. It's where dreams come true. How else are your dreams gonna come true unless you come to Disney right here, Anaheim? Get your Mickey Mouse ears. Yeah, exactly. You'll be fully
the teacups.
Have you been to the Disney?
Ride those teacups.
I haven't been to Disney. No, if you're asking me,
I'm asking both of you.
No, I haven't been to America.
You guys are both in there's a Euro Disney.
In France.
And Ali, you're also like right there.
Yeah, there's one right there.
But
you know what, mate? I hate monopolies, dude. I really hate it. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Hey, can I ask, how did you guys meet?
We grew up in Lebanon
him in the bar.
together.
Like we got into a fight, and
what is this fake backstory, dude? We grew up in Lebanon. We went to the same middle school and high school.
Bro, I don't know. I just came from Australia. Like I wanted to get into Gittenberg. Just trying to make up a story.
The sarcasm's dose is high. Yeah, exactly. So we just know each other. Same school.
You got to watch. Yeah, cool. So you grew up in Lebanon together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Lebanon, Beirut, almost near Beirut.
Ah, wow, cool.
Yeah,
amazing.
You got to come visit.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of fights in Lebanon. Like that's how we show each other love, though. Like that's the community sharing that we have there. Not a lot of therapy going on there. So
yeah, actually, in my high school, we had a big Lebanese community, and in high school there was a lot of fights, Lebanese like gang fights and stuff.
See, yeah.
Now that I think of it,
in Australia, wow, the diaspora reaches far. Yeah, exactly.
And we bring our aggression with us, bro. No matter where we are.
I apologize, for the aggression. I think it has to do with like trauma.
Probably.
So, don't be
a lot of PTSD. Yes.
Judgmental. I've had to work through a lot of the trauma, and now I'm much more free. That's how it be sometimes. Yeah, exactly. So what do you think, Daniel? Where can people find you and learn more about your book and your movies and your life?
Everything's on my website at danthomas.net. That's the hub of everything. Short films, couple of podcasts, all the projects. That's the hub of it. I'm on social media. All of it's under Mr. Dan Thomas. But yeah, very very much focused on short films at the moment. I love the medium. So yeah, I'd love you guys to check it out.
Best of luck. That sounds fun. We love some of your shorts. We were talking about it, having a laugh about it, and it's interesting. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys checking it out.
What-
Guys, can I just say what you're doing is awesome?
Oh,
The A
thank you.
squared.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's
Why do you
yeah,
think
it's really
so?
cool.
Why do you
I just think you guys have an awesome dynamic.
Thank you.
And bit of fun, you know, like life's too serious to be taken seriously.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's just I know how much work goes into podcasting, and it's yeah, it's no small feat. So just keep smashing it.
Thank you, brother. Let's do it. Said, what do you
careful.
think?
I just want to say, be careful of which cubicle you look at when you're peeing, man. In the public. That's all.
Oh goodness. Take
And
me to
this is-
Germany, right?
And this is and this is how we sign out. Thank you guys for
Right,
watching.
ciao.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.